back of the rim. Garnett on the slam. Oh, using Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry.
Wow, it's been about 5 years since I made that video about Jimmy Butler and how brilliant he was, because he was really killing it for Miami. They were in the NBA Finals, he'd actually helped them win a couple of games, and it was in the first year of his Miami Heat tenure, which was not supposed to end in an NBA Finals. Here in 2025, I would say their relationship was not supposed to end this way, and it's ending in one of the most public breakups, and one of the nastiest public breakups I think I've seen, really since probably Orlando. Yeah, Orlando Dwight Howard. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is kind of how we got here, some of the things you might not have realized with Pat Riley and how he deals with stars, and then what the future may hold for the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler. And as you know, the future of these intros always ends with a shout out to our partners over at DraftKings. If you're a football fan, you know there's only a few short weeks left in the season, and we've got some exciting wildcard games to look forward to now. Get in on the action right now with my partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. They're offering all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5. Don't let this slip away. Download the DraftKings app now and sign up using code DOM2K. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. Combine multiple bets together from the same game. And if you're into the thrill of live betting, DraftKings has got you covered. Bet live on in-progress games right as they happen. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code DOM2K and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code DOM2K only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Well, it's over. I don't remember which video I said it in, but it was over summer when Pat Riley said something along the lines of Jimmy needing to shut his mouth if he wasn't on the court. I understand professional sports, I understand team culture and basketball culture. I still had my eyebrow raised at Pat publicly telling the face of his team to shut up during a contract year. A contract which mysteriously hadn't been signed yet. I raised that point not only because I thought the comment was a little crazy, I also was wondering what Butler was even still doing there in the first place. The 2024 season just should have been the end of it. 2 finals trips, no significant roster moves, an expiring star, and no commitment from said star. Where does that type of situation normally end up? Exactly where we are right now. The irony of the situation is how it picked up on the tails of another scenario with very similar vibes. It really feels like no matter who a star is or what a star does, what Riley says goes. So when D-Wade was expecting gratitude after sacrificing how he did to allow the Heatles to exist but didn't get it, he left, only to return a bit later after patching things up. This is where Butler took the baton. Before Wade, James couldn't get his way with coaching situations after implying Pat should take Spoelstra's seat in year 1. Not saying Riley was wrong there, it's just his way. And he might be the first person at that point that ever said no to LeBron. It was also interesting how Riley challenged all 3 of them in the media when it began to seem like Bron might be looking elsewhere in free agency. He more or less very publicly told the game's largest figure not to run from the grind just because they hadn't been winning all their finals, and that he should stand and face the fire. It didn't work. James did exactly what he wanted, as he always does, and years later we learned the details of just how dicey things actually got. Riley didn't believe his meeting with LeBron during summer 2014 was sincere, as his key business partners were absent and James reportedly seemed distracted by TV, which Pat asked to mute. He reportedly told Bron he was making the biggest mistake of his career, which makes it hilarious. He not only went on to win 2 more titles, one came at the expense of Miami directly. What I didn't know was Riley reportedly needed to be talked off the ledge of doing something similar to Dan Gilbert's crash out during James's departure, something completely beneath his legend, and I'm glad he didn't do it. Still, we're already on example number 3 of Pat's my way or the highway vibe with top tier stars. The ego does make sense though when you consider how much of NBA history he's got a hand in. He's really been here before and after almost any great you can imagine. Unfortunately, now that he's no longer performing magic tricks with rosters, the stubbornness and unwillingness to adapt is starting to just seem flat out costly. It even goes back to Shaq. A critical detail I left out of the Miami Heat doc was how Riley demanded the players return to the facility 2 weeks before training camp to get back in shape, as he didn't want championship hangover rolling into 07. If you know anything about how O'Neal worked, this simply wasn't flying, and when he used his star status to defy Riley's wishes, the problem started immediately, eventually leading to another argument down the road over, yet again, Riley's rules. It was the catalyst leading to Shaq's departure. Albeit with how out of shape he got, Pat definitely had a point. I think the better example here would be Jason Williams just barely being late to practice, Riley trying to throw him out, and this basically being the situation that led to Shaq officially being traded. So here we are nearly 20 years later, and Butler is at the altar declaring his independence after 5.5 seasons. Very rocky saga so far too. First off, if you were paying any attention at all, the mid-30s star who hadn't re-signed yet very obviously had his sights set elsewhere. You had to be in denial not to see it. When asked early on about his future, there was a very non-committal answer, as if trying to get everyone to take the hint. By then, Shams had already reported the obvious. Jimmy was out sooner than later, which was confusing because everyone should have known this, but then Butler's agent popped out on Twitter to tell the world Shams was apparently a fraud. Shams, who consistently reports correctly and is the first to nearly every punch. The man broke Donald Trump's COVID announcement. Yeah, the cheering going on under the post made no sense either. A, why would you still want Jimmy as a Heat fan at this point? And B, what would Shams have had to gain from randomly lying on a report like that? Also, how on earth were Jimmy and his own agent not on the same page? Not in the same book even. The only thing I can figure is the agent must have been mad at some details of the report he thought were misrepresented. Oh well, everything in life is optics. It looks like he had a bone to pick with Shams and completely took the wrong approach here, and now he's getting buried. Regardless, Pat Riley once again forcing things to be his way shut it all down by flatly stating they weren't trading Butler. Which ultimately just means you lose him for nothing in free agency, so okay I guess. I mean, unless you finally have a helpful trade in place. Yeah, I'm gonna wager he does not. Oh, but then there's another report stating Miami has no intentions of a rebuild in mind and they actually think they can still take Boston right now as is. So from Riley's view, it appears he wants his star player to participate in another one of those runs that may or may not end up in a Cinderella story. Kind of ridiculous to still be doing this in 2025, not gonna lie. I mean, I know his hate for Boston runs deep, but let it go. Y'all lost this specific rivalry. So after all the dust settled, we get to January and Butler got in his James Harden bag. Remember the interview I always reference when he finally felt he needed to speed things up and just publicly said there's nothing left for him in Houston? Repeat. Oh, he did it even nastier though. James was somewhat political about his approach. Here's the route Butler chose.
And for you to be your best version of yourself, can that be your role and you thrive to the best of your ability?
It can be my role here.
What will fix it? What do you want to see happen to fix it?
What do I want to see happen? I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball. And wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon. But I want to joy back. I'm happy here, you know, off the court. But I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop. And I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
And as I'm in the middle of working through this, the Miami Heat have suspended Jimmy Butler for 7 games. The Player Association is filing a grievance about it. What is going on? I'll be the first to say I never expected any of this situation from the Miami Heat organization of any franchise, and especially not with Jimmy. I mean, don't y'all remember how this all started? We were dumbfounded as to why he chose Miami in the first place, and why Miami had chosen him in their particular position at the time. Immediately going to the NBA Finals and producing 2 trips overall that was very nearly 3, only to end with a very embarrassing public feud with a man who led it is just wow. Ah, yeah, the journey. Even if they'd been fully healthy against the Lakers, they likely don't win, albeit the series' entertainment value would certainly have benefited. Either way, the assumption afterward was they'd make a move to improve, grabbing one of the numerous stars who were sure to be on the move sooner than later. Multiple stars did move, and each and every inquiry ended with, Miami Heat are ending pursuit of such and such, for one reason or another. Mix in a couple of seasons where injuries completely derailed them, and well, you've got the entire Jimmy Butler saga. And maybe understand why it's ending the way it is. Funny enough, I think in hindsight it might be lost to history how there were very few trades which actually made sense for them. Remember, these Miami Heat teams were nearly always underdogs to the contenders they played or beat because they almost always needed the absolute best out of everybody on the floor to make it happen. These weren't really rosters with a ton of leeway to be gutted to accommodate another star and still go on to win. What if they had got Kevin Durant, James Harden, Mitchell? If they'd met the price tag, would the resulting rosters have actually been championship worthy? I guess in hindsight, that detail won't matter because the rosters which were kept intact also weren't good enough. So maybe it'll be said they should have done like their other Eastern counterparts and made the deals anyways. I wonder what the future looks like though. Miami is a prime market, and you'd assume they'll fall into another star one day the same way they got them over the last few decades. Still, with Riley's propensity to move like it's still the 80s, I wonder if it'll hit the same with this generation of players. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like Butler just did no wrong all these years. There was a very noticeable difference a lot of times between playoff Jimmy and regular season Jimmy. Season Jimmy doesn't seem to care about a thing. Maybe he'll be an all-star, maybe he won't. Maybe he'll play more than 60 games. He probably won't. But when the playoffs come, it's time to turn superstar mode on and look like the best player in the bracket. This kind of appears to be one of the things that finally drove a wedge between he and Pat, and it's the same thing I could see keeping other stars away. If you're signing up for Miami, you're signing up to work. And as you can see, the way they run things is kind of old school. It's been that way since he tried to cut a championship team's vacation short. Meanwhile, today's players don't even care much to play back-to-backs, and the player power movement has been a thing for well over a decade now. If a guy who came to Miami to lift them to contention when they were dead in the water can go out like this, to the point the NBPA has gotten involved, how many other stars are watching this and being turned off by the Heat culture? Furthermore, stars want results now. Gone are the days of, say, a Michael Redd who cared less if he won a championship and was just loyal to the city. If a star says he wants help now, you get him help or the shoulder gets cold quickly. Riley going years now saying they're good enough when we can see they clearly aren't almost just comes off as ego and pride from a day when things used to work that way. And the best current example of this is saying they can still take Boston. I assure you, unless there's injuries, they can't. So where will Butler be traded? We've heard the names. What's his value? A disgruntled star with an expiring contract who's also gotten older and, once again, might not give you his best during the regular season. I'm not totally convinced a deal will even happen for this reason. We're a month away from the deadline, and this is where we currently are. Given the assets coming back to Miami might not be so great anyway, I could see a world where Riley continues to throw the middle finger to what he apparently feels is player entitlement, letting him ride out the season on the bench if it comes to it. Well, that's all I've got to say about this Jimmy Butler situation for now, and hopefully he hasn't been traded by the time this video comes up, because I actually need to get to work on the next video, which will be about the Dallas Mavericks, who you may have realized were very much missing from the last video I did. Yeah, that video I worked on over the course of a month on about 3 or 4 different computers, and I guess somewhere along the way I left the part that I recorded and edited on another computer for the Hawks and Mavericks, so nobody even messaged me and asked a damn thing about the Hawks, which we'll talk about when we get to their deep dive and how mid they've been. However, yeah, the crunch got me. I just fucked up on the Dallas part. So assuming nothing else crazy happens in the league, the next video will be for the Dallas Mavericks. Another deep dive like the ones we did last year, those are always my favorite. If you enjoyed this video, you know the drill with the like button, commenting, and subscribing. Oh, also, tomorrow, we will be on Playback. Me, 3Cone, probably B-Ball Breakdown. We're on for Thunder and Cavs. That is, surprisingly, probably one of the matchups I have been most excited for this season. Coming into the 2025 season, I didn't think it would be that way. Appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.